It's about that time again. All right, you guys, we're gonna do some photo editing today. This is with the Stradman's Gladiator. We shot this at what I call blue hour, which is just a little bit after golden hour, when the sun is just gone below the mountains and everything turns blue. So we're gonna need to do some color correcting and definitely brighten this thing up. So the first thing I do is go to my presets, and I know you guys know that I never use presets. I have a handful in here that I've just kind of collected over the years, but my go-to, where is it? Under Essentials is Levels. And the only thing Levels does is, if you look at my tone curve here, it adds little dots that are kind of pre-selected in areas that I'm usually using, but the actual colors and everything on the photo are identical. So all that's the only preset that I ever use. And then I just kind of work my way down here. So I want to look at the exposure and brighten this thing up a ton, decrease the contrast and make it a little bit softer. My highlights, bring them down just a little bit to get some detail back in the sky there. I'm gonna raise the shadows up just a little bit, but when I raise those up, I wanna make sure the foreground doesn't get too blown out, because I know I'm gonna go back and correct the Jeep individually. So I'm really just kind of correcting for the foreground with the shadows. And then the whites, let's see what's changing the background. I want to keep some details, so brighten it just about 20. And then blacks, I want to be a little more aggressive looking, so swing it to the left. Now I do want my blacks to be slightly flat, so I'm going to grab the tail end here and bring that up just a little bit, and you'll notice the blacks got a little softer. I'm probably going to adjust this tone curve just a little bit to see what detail I can bring back in. Those look good. And then, oh, I forgot to white balance. I should have done that right after exposure. So white balance, we're going to work off of his wheel, because that is the only white thing in the photo. And honestly, that looks, it depends on what look you're going for. If you want it to be a little more golden hour, then yeah, I guess that works. But I kind of want this to be angry, because you guys already know we're going to add a storm in here. So bring the yellows down just a little bit, and purples are good where they are. Okay, we're all white balanced. Now to, let's see, we'll adjust these colors next. Where are my reds at? Not really any in the photo, we'll leave that. Where my orange is at, kind of in the background, I'll add a little bit of orange, make it slightly red, and leave luminance the same. For that one, yellows, where are they at? Still in the background, add a little bit of yellow, make it slightly orange. Greens, where are those at? Not really in the photo, we'll leave that alone. Light blue, not in the photo at all, we'll leave that alone. Dark blue, okay, yeah, there's definitely some dark blue. What direction do we want to go with this? Probably moody, so I'm going to add a little bit darker right there, so I'll make the hue just a little more on the purple side. Also, if you guys can hear anything in the background, it's because I am on my roof, literally in the middle of Hollywood. So those choppers flying over and everything, I can't help that, sorry. But I'm literally on the roof. I'm like looking at the Hollywood sun right now. All right, so adjusting that luminance. I'm probably gonna go just a little darker, because I'm thinking 10 steps ahead here, because I know that I'm gonna already add storm clouds, so I kind of know what the sky needs to look like. I know I can't blow it out with whites, because if I had storm cloud over a bright background, it's gonna look dumb. And I can't make it too dark, because I'm gonna go back in with the gradient here and add detail and darkness as like a fade effect, which you'll see later on. But just know that I'm adjusting these not as a finished point, but basically setting it up for what I'm gonna do later on in the photo. And you'll get better at what you're aiming for as you develop your style over time. All right, so adding a little bit of saturation, because I really want that purple to pop, because, I mean, it's James's Jeep, obviously. Any kind of light purple, no. Okay, clarity. Clarity, you can make, almost all my portraits have clarity like -10, -15. It just depends on what look you're going for. Kind of adds like a softness to them, but we want this to look kind of aggressive, so I don't know if I should go clarity 10 minus or 10 plus. I like 10 minus on this, just because I think it's going to blend well with those storm clouds, and my blacks, the way that we have them, are going to still make it look aggressive, so I think clarity is going to be okay. Dehaze, I might bump up like 2. Vignette, obviously. vignette kind of darkens the edges there. And then I need to smoothen this out a little bit, but add some detail back with sharpening. That's just something I always do to pretty much every photo. I'm going to remove chromatic aberration, which if you zoom in like a ton, there's like little lines here that kind of appear sometimes when you have a sunset in the background. You can't really tell here, but I'm going to check it just in case. Anytime you got a sunset behind a dark subject, you probably have chromatic aberration. Next up, we need to paint the car. Now this is probably the laziest way to adjust colors on a subject, but you know what, to each their own. Some people really like to like map every little dot out in Photoshop. Honestly, like this blends kind of well, so I've found that this way works for me. So what I've done here is I have all my settings on the right set to just 0, so it's not actually changing anything on the photo, and then I hit O on the keyboard, the hotkey, to basically make everything that I'm painting red. And I know in previous tutorials I basically said to ramp up the exposure so you know where you're painting. So like if I take that redness off, you can see where I'm painting, but the problem is that there's lag because the computer's trying to like actually change properties on the photo. So I found a faster way, thanks to Keith Photos. Go to O twice, pull that up, get rid of the exposure, and you can paint a lot faster. And I say Keith Photos, it's Keith Cars. He actually has his own YouTube channel that he's just getting started with some tutorials as well. So if you want to check out my boy Keith, just go under people that I follow on Instagram. It's not many, and find a guy named Keith. All right, gonna keep painting in this car. I think this was shot on an 85mm prime. If it wasn't an 85mm prime, it was for sure my 50mm prime, which is like my go-to for cars. I don't own an 85, I rented it for this trip, but it's probably gonna be my next lens purchase. But the 50 is pretty much my go-to for cars because it's just a good depth of field. It's 1.4, I think, good, lens warp isn't really an issue, and I don't know, it's just been my go-to always. All right, so I've kind of painted in the edges here, and like you could get really specific if you want to dive in here and get around the edges like this close, but honestly, like I kind of like the fact that it's not a harsh edge. So like I said, this way works for me. So now that the car is completely painted, I can hit O 2 times to get rid of it, and now I can adjust the car's settings. I always bump up exposure first, and I almost blow it out a little bit because you can see there's whites here and it looks kind of ugly. Well, dehaze to the rescue. Bring in dehaze and all of a sudden you have this very sharp, rich looking color and it's not blown out. Magic, right? Bump up the clarity, make that Jeep look a little more angrier, add some sharpness for detail, noise to pull some detail out of the paint so it looks nice and clean. Maybe a little less noise, a little more sharpness. And I'm liking how this is looking. Shadows, what does that look like? We bring up the shadows. Does it? Oh shoot, there was some lag there. I might bring the shadows up like 4. That's probably good enough. Let's see what whites look like. It all kind of depends. You have to look at the photo and figure out what you're gonna add to it. Each photo is different, so no magic sauce on editing the vehicle. I know I always start with exposure and dehaze though, and then kind of work my way from there. I don't like the whites like that. I think it looks a little more natural. There we go, now we're popping. Okay, time to paint Brandon. Brandon went out, oh, there's a fire in LA. And since Brandon is like so dark compared to his background, I can click auto mask here, and let's see if this works. Hit O 2 times to bring up my settings, reset these, and let me paint Brandon in real fast. And you can see how it's, even though I'm like painting a much larger area, it's only touching Brandon, and this is giving you actually a pretty harsh edge on the ending if you're like very particular about that, which is pretty rad. Little bit got off here, we'll just go back and erase that, no problem. All right, now Brandon is ready to be adjusted. Good deal. Okay, get rid of the red. Let's bring Brandon up a little bit. Brandon is at Visuals on Instagram. You can just go to people I follow and type in Brandon. He's like one of 2 Brandons I think I follow. He takes way more bomb photos than I do, which is why I brought him on this trip. Pulling out the saturation a little bit. He's a little blue in the hood. I don't like that, so I bumped up the white balance on the tan side, and look at that. He just goes right back to normal. Maybe a little bit green. Maybe less green, maybe more tan, less saturation. I'm just looking at the whites because I don't want the whites to look weird. I think I like that. Okay, so now Brandon's set, now the Jeep is set, time for our linear gradients. This is where the magic sauce is. You click and drag, of course reset all these because they have the previous settings for what I just did for Brandon. Click and drag, and then I want to decrease exposure in the foreground, okay? Because what you're trying to do is draw your eye to the subject, and you do that by darkening the foreground and reducing some saturation. So it literally just draws your eye in. Bring that bottom half in, and you'll figure out kind of how to work with your gradients as you use them more. Let's see what clarity does, if I like that. That's okay, I'll leave it. Maybe a little more on the exposure. Oh, so our blacks are just so flat right now. Maybe give a little more life back to the blacks. There we go. It was just so flat right there. I had to fix that little tail. Okay, now the gradient for the sky. This is my favorite part. This is where it really starts to get dope. Again, it's just copying the previous settings. So I'm going to reduce exposure and actually increase dehaze, because you're going to notice it's going to pull more detail out of those clouds, and increase clarity and decrease saturation. There's some moody clouds. That's what I'm talking about. Now we're like really prepped for storm clouds. I think this photo is ready to be brought into Photoshop. Right click, hit edit in Photoshop. I'm trying to keep this tutorial as quick as possible for you guys, because I know you just want to get in there and edit. I hate tutorials that take forever. I'm never going to waste time in mine with dumb intros and like off tangent talking and all that stuff. Right now I'm just waiting on Photoshop to load. All right. Boom, we're in Photoshop, and I'm going to hit J on the hotkey, and then I'm going to use the brackets on the keyboard to make that circle bigger. Also, if there's like random steps that I just go through too fast, DM me on Instagram. I'll explain them in more detail, okay? I reply to every single DM. Okay? God, there's a lot of fires in LA today. Go figure. So what I'm doing is just painting over these areas. These are what I call distractions. They have to go. They're like needy girlfriends. So you just paint over them with the J tool, which is actually heal on your toolbar right here. And what's that doing? What it's doing is, it's trust me, it's way better than the heal tool in Lightroom, and it's using pixels that are like nearby in that circle area, and it is kind of filling in and erasing. I mean, like, you can see what it's doing. This stuff is magic. All right, got rid of the branches. There's a couple more here. Under the Jeep. Got to zoom in a little bit. Nope. All right, is there anything on the Jeep we want to get rid of? Let's get rid of this sticker. It's a little obvious. We'll leave Agility Customs. We'll leave that one on the windshield. That one's fine. All right, everything else there looks fine. Brandon looks okay. You could see a little bit of chromatic aberration there on his hood, what I was talking about, that line. I could go through and try to fix that, but you're probably not going to tell, and we need to keep going. All right, so now everything is as I would consider clean, and it is ready for overlay. So basically you want to clean up the photo as much as you can before you start adding in all these other layers, so that way you have the cleanest possible photo and you don't have to go backwards and clean up. Okay, now I go to my Finder. Where are my photo overlays, photo items, sky things? So I've got some stock photos here, and I just kind of look at them and look at where I'm putting them and figure out which clouds make the most sense. There's my lightning. Which clouds make the most sense in the scene that I'm trying to use them in. Ooh, that one would look cool. I might use that one. The first one also looked, this one might work, because you can see there's like, oh, it goes very far away here, and in my photo it goes very far away. So like something like this probably wouldn't work because it doesn't have as far depth of field in the shot, or something like that wouldn't work because it's flat, it's shot direct on. In my photo you have this far depth of field and things in the foreground, so you need something that shows distance, if that makes any sense. So I'm gonna use, ooh, I like that one just because it looks so angry. Let's drag that guy in. Hold down shift to lock in the dimensions. If you don't hold shift, it gets all weird. So shift, lock in the dimensions. Don't worry if it looks pixelated, that's normal. And I'm gonna hit multiply so I can kind of see through a little bit. And I'm seeing how this is gonna line in. I think these clouds are too close. So nope, rejected. Let's go back to that first set that looked promising. Drop that in, shift, make it big. This looks a lot better. Angle them to match the horizon. And multiply so I can see through it. I think we're in the money on this. I like that. All right, make that a little bit bigger, hit check mark. Now it's time for the blending. So we kind of look at the clouds and see what looks best. It's gonna probably be either multiply, screen, or soft light. Let's check screen. Screen is probably gonna be it. I'm gonna have to darken that again. See what soft light looks like. Soft light looks pretty good actually. I'm gonna go with soft light. All right, so we're all set there. Next is the eraser tool. So I'm gonna go back to normal, and I'm gonna click it, rasterize, whatever that means, and then adjust my circle, make sure the flow is like about halfway, and get rid of this harsh edge there. Goodbye. Drop down the flow a lot more, go to your back to your blending mode, and just blend that boy right in. I'm clicking and holding and dragging, okay? And now it kind of isn't that crazy how those clouds, they look like they belong there? The other ones, I hope you can tell why they wouldn't have worked. All right, let's go to normal again and check how this is blending. Okay, so there's a little bit of clouds on Brandon's head we need to get rid of. There's some clouds on the Jeep that's taking away detail I need to get rid of. Goodbye. All right. There's a little bit of reflection in the mountains, but that's all okay. All right, back to soft light. How are we looking? Bam, not bad. I kind of want to blend it better here. So I'm gonna get rid of some of these clouds there, because the clouds down here that are real are a little bit different than these harsher clouds. So I kind of want to erase this center part here and kind of like just blend those in a little bit nicer. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. That's better. Let me back up here, because now you can see like an obvious difference between where the fake clouds begin and the other ones, and the real ones start. Let me see here. Let's go back that far. Okay. Let's blend a little bit less. I like that better. Okay, much better. All right, you know we need lightning, obviously. Where is Sky Thing? Probably, oh, it's under Sky Things, I think. We'll use my go-to lightning. I should probably use some more lightning, some different stuff later, but I like this bolt. Screen, and we'll put this lightning like, we want it to be like striking in the like closer. Yeah, that looks really evil. But we don't want it to be like perfectly centered, so like maybe, ooh yeah, like up here. Oh, that's money right there. Check. All right, let's see what multiply looks like. Nope, that's way too dark. Let's look at soft light. Closer. I think screen is the move today. Kind of like the screen that I punched out on my window to climb on my roof. Remember flow, bump that up about halfway, and we got to get rid of those harsh edges. You can switch to blending mode to normal if you kind of need to see where those edges are, but like I'm just doing this on the fly. All right, drop that flow back down to like 10 something so we can make really soft, clean blends here, and then get some of that lightning erased. There we go. We don't want it to be too harsh. That's my dog, who barks at me every day even though I live in the house, whatever. Okay, I think I got that where I want it. Now, obviously the lightning can't be in focus because the foreground's in focus. The background is blurred. So now we hit this little eyedropper, and I put strength 100, and then I blur out that lightning, because it needs to be out of focus as if I shot it in real life. And I'm just clicking and dragging to blur it out. Let's see what we're doing. where we're at here. Oh, I don't like that harsh edge. We're gonna get rid of that real fast. Okay, and that harsh edge. There's a crow like right by where I'm sitting. You could probably hear it. Okay, get rid of some of the purple there. That looks great. Now we need to blur the clouds a little bit because the clouds shouldn't be in focus either. These up here can, because they're closer in the foreground and you can kind of cheat it, but like the clouds here where the lightning is need to be blurred a little bit. That lightning color looks unrealistic, so we're gonna fix that in a second next. All right, that's enough blurring of the clouds. Next, hue saturation. And I'm gonna drag the hue saturation over the lightning layer and then hold down Option on your MacBook, and it brings up this little box, and then click. Basically, it tells you hue saturation only applies to the lightning, okay? So now when you see me adjust this, look, only the lightning changes. Make the lightning a little more blue, pull some saturation out of it, and all of a sudden, bam, we are blending in with the clouds appropriately. I think the lightning is still a little too in my face though, so let me get rid of some of this white action here. That crow is creeping me out. All right, now I think we're in business. And we got this like lightish blue, but it's blending into purples and blacks. I'm vibing with this photo a lot. I like it. It looks evil. Okay, hit save. Exit out of Lightroom. Get rid of your little toolbox. Or sorry, exit out of Photoshop. Now we're in Lightroom. Watch, it automatically loads it down here. Click on it, boom. That's the photo we were just working on. These orangey things, the orange clouds here, I'm gonna paint over that real quick. I'm not so sure that's realistic. Reset all sliders, and I'm just gonna pull a little bit of saturation out. I vibe with that. What if we add tan? No. Add blue. Ooh, okay, okay. Add blue. What about a little bit of purple action? Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do my, oh my gosh, I'm such an amateur. I'm sorry, guys. I forgot to do my tone curves. That was a big mistake. Well, you know what? You're gonna have to tune in for a different tutorial on tone curves, because you know what? We're at like 20 minutes plus already. I would use tone curves to make this look a lot more ballin', and you'll see that in a future thing, but for now, we're gonna just paint that. I think we're painted up nicely there. And I think I want to add one more gradient on top to just really bring this all together. Reset sliders, bring that exposure down just a smidge, dehaze to give me some more detail. How does clarity looking? Ooh, clarity's making this real hard. Like evil hard. Evil. I like it. And highlights to pull some of the light out of that lightning. And I think that's all she wrote. All right, guys, I'm gonna start dropping tutorials probably every week or every other week, something like that. Basically, I'm gonna drop videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Now, Thursdays you can expect like a full-fledged vlog, an adventure, something really dope. And then if I do 2 adventures that week, it will go up on Tuesday. If not, you can expect a tutorial, because I wanna help you guys get to this level and hopefully pass my ability in editing. And the secret is sharing information. So make sure you're liking this video if it helped you. If you have questions, drop a comment. I literally read every single comment, or send me a DM, and make sure you're subscribed, because I'm going to keep uploading these for you guys so you can get better at your photography. Catch you next week. Peace.